Oh, there we go. We're good to go. And I am in the Lichess study as well.
Oh, well, we talked a bit about going through some end games with pawns on both sides of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
board.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I looked up some of those. The end game you played was very instructive. It had many important moments where many themes can apply. We're going to see some aspects of that endgame after we go through some examples.
Okay.
Um, but it was a very rich endgame to learn about. Um, well, you face a similar problem to this one, even though the position is very different, of course. But you really needed to break through, and it turned out it wasn't so easy. The position was very close in nature, even though you had that passed pawn in your game. It was difficult to break through with the king. Something similar is happening to White here. He has a very strong king on g6. It appears as if he's going to win this, but there are so many ways of going wrong. Uh, you have the more active king, and usually, well, in any king and pawn endgame, that's important. With pawns on both sides, it might be even more important. um, what would you play here as white? I'm going to give you some time because it requires calculation.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I like first glimpse. Yeah, like just looking at it, I really like white here. So so if I had to choose a side here, it would be white. Let me think. It like just an initial glimpse just looks like completely winning for white. But how do we do it? I mean, in a perfect world, we could get to e6, but looks like black can simply go back and forth to e7, f8. Now I wonder if black is kind of in zugzwang, and if we can go to h7, king h7. So let's just take a look at king h7 and king f7 and king h8, and let's say king g6. And then I think simply king g8, king f6. And I think we're going to be able to get that e6 pawn because then we go king f8, king f8. Okay, so here black could play king g6, but then we're getting to e7, and I think we're winning. So I think when our king is on f8, maybe then black can push a pawn and play g6. I think yeah. So his king is still on f6. Okay. So and then if we go so after g6, if white goes king e8, the question is, are we fast enough? Um, I think we are. I think we're fast enough because if let's say black plays I don't know h5, he's not getting through after we lock it in, so he can't play h5. Or yeah, he can't play h5. And if he plays g5 again, we're locking him in. And I think yeah, I think that's winning for white.
King h7 then. Well, an outflanking looks tempting here. It really does. Actually, that was the move from the game. Uh, White played king h7. Let's see how the game went first, because it's funny, but every move made in the game by these two grandmasters were mistakes. King h7, black played king f7. Well, trying to keep the opposition so that the white king doesn't get to the d6 pawn. And after king f7, white played king h8, which is still a mistake. We're going to see why then. Um,
Oh, I didn't even consider this. I didn't consider king
Yeah,
f8. Yeah.
he can stay here, but the thing is, he can't stay there for long. Now you can play g5. Black is going to be in Suxuan soon enough. For example, if you go h5, then g6, and the g7 pawn is falling. So only h takes g remains to be seen, and king f7. And what happens here?
Yeah, black is going to have to give up that h7 pawn or g7 pawn because we go king h7, king king f8, and then we push g6.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, in this case, white is winning. Actually, that's how the game went. White played king h7, king f7 by black, king h8, and he just followed suit there. he kept the opposition, but it doesn't work. You just get your pawn to g6, and if that happens, then g7 is lost. But well, king h7. So we saw that king f7 doesn't quite work. But is there any extra resource for black after king h7? I mean, keeping the opposition is essential for black. Otherwise, you're just outflanking this king and you get to f8, e8, and the pawn on this seat. So you really need to keep this king caged
So
here.
I don't think this works, but I'm just thinking of the idea of giving double rook pawns, so pushing h5. But I guess part of the problem with that is, well, I don't know. It's interesting. I think h5 is interesting.
h5. Yeah, your only other resource, and the only other reason we'll move here, other than king f7, but it's actually a draw. uh, Now, if white pushes, then king f7, and if g sits, you're going to stalemate that king with king f8. Oh, I'm sorry, no, you're winning the g pawn. It's not stalemate at all. He has king h8, but well, in this case, white is even losing because you lose the g6 pawn. After king h8, king takes
Oh,
g6,
it's
and
like
that's it.
trebuchet.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you have to um, here g5, king f7. You have to go back most likely. I'm sorry, h5, come on, g5, king f8, king h8. The only move, otherwise we're losing the pawn. And now what does black play?
I think he has to play king g6.
Excellent. Yeah, the only move, otherwise you're just losing the g pawn. If g6, king h7, and the g pawn is lost. And if king f8, then g6 as in the last variation. So king g6, and it's funny because he's forced into stalemating black with king g8. White has no other move, and he has to go for stalemate.
Yeah, it's weird.
Uh, yeah. So that unexpected resource of h5 actually lets black cage this king in after king h7. I'm sorry, this is the position. h5, and if you take, you can also take the opposition here, and actually the white king can never get away from this, because after h6 you just play g6, and then the opposition actually lets you make a draw. So if you play king h7, you're actually putting your king in a strange situation where it's just not going to outflank the black king, but there are so many stalemate ideas. So, well, black didn't find it. He played king f7. Both played badly, because after king h7, king f7, white only played king h8, allowing this again. h5 was again the move. And it's the same. If g takes king f8, we keep the opposition. And if g5, king g6, and it's still the same stalemate after king g8. So, well, both lost the thread here, but after king f8, g5, white ended up winning the g-pawn, so he won. Well, let's go back to the initial position. We absolutely need to get to e6, as you said. So what's the other way of doing that? If we can't outflank him right now.
Hang on. Because I'm just looking at, it's just interesting because h5 puts black in kind of a zugzwang, and then so if you go to king g8, I'm just looking if we could do something interesting with g5 there. So I'm looking at h5, king g8, g5. Let's say hg.
Yeah, king takes.
Yeah, king has to take. And that's what I'm not sure about. So let's say king f7. Then we get opposition with king f6. Or king f5, I mean. I guess he can't play g6 because we just take with the pawn. Okay, let me look at that again. So h5, king g8, f5, g takes, king takes, king f7, king f5, and let's say king g. Well, you can't. Yeah, that seems to work. Then we get the e6 pawn, because if you. Okay, well, no, that's not quite true. Hang on. He could go king e7, and then if we. So king e7, if we go king g6, then he's got king f8.
King f8.
We still have that one pawn. I mean, I could play h6, and if takes, I don't know if we're going to be able to outflank him there. Let's say king f7, and then king. I'm going really far here, but and then king.
That's good. That's it. Yeah.
King h5. I'm trying to get the distant opposition. So after king h5, let's say if king f6, then we have king h6 with the lateral or the vertical opposition. And since we have opposition, I think we'll be able to outflank him there. But I don't know. That's pretty deep, so I don't know.
Yeah, but Well, that's good that you try to go deep because well, these endgames actually lend themselves to that. And yeah, you're winning there with your king on h6 and his king on f8. You're almost certain that you're getting here because after king f7, if you play king h5, it's a diagonal opposition, and you usually want it to turn it into a horizontal one. Because if king h5, he goes king f6, and when you go back to h6, he goes back to f7, and you have to make progress somehow. Because if you play the king to g5, he plays king g7, and that's a draw. Now he gets the opposition. So with his king on f7, you should go to h7. And you will be able to outflanking either through g6 or g8, because if he plays king f8, you just go to g6. And well, that's the end for him because he can keep the opposition on these seats when you play king f6. Then he goes king e7, king g7, and you're certain that you're getting to this pawn. So without these pawns on the king side and his king on f7, you play king h7. And if he goes to f6, then you have king g8. I'm sorry, king g8. And you're certainly outflanking him. His only chance is to go grab your own pawn on e4, but you get there first. King g5, king f7, king f4, king e6, king takes e4, king takes d6. He goes back to f4. You take on c5, and your pawn is faster. It's already on d5, and you're going to promote first, and these two extra pawns should ensure that you win. So your variation makes sense, though h5 has one problem. King g8, well, you saw this here, g5, h takes, king takes, and now you mentioned king here, where
But
you
king
can employ
h7
this
maybe.
strategy. Yeah, this is more problematic to us.
I wonder if we have time though.
Because if now king,
Like I'm just wondering. Like, so it's whites to move. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we queen in 7 moves, and he would queen in what? Let's see, what 1, 2, 3. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4. He queens way longer. Wouldn't that still? Isn't this just winning?
um, h, let me see, h5, king g8. Well, all of this is pretty forced. King here, king f5,
Yeah.
and we go for this pawn.
Yeah.
Might work.
We queen way faster.
And now g5.
Oh, I forgot he can move 2 squares. Okay.
Yeah.
But still,
Uh,
we might queen at the same
Here
time.
yeah, you're
Yeah, same time.
yeah. Actually, here you are winning because you have
Yeah.
this nice resource.
Yeah.
You play king f4 first,
Uh,
so he can't go
yeah.
g3, and he has to put his king on this diagonal. And now we promote with check. Yeah. Okay. So h5 here, king g8, g5, h takes, king takes. Okay, then king h7 is completely out of the question, and you have to go for this. Um, well, if you have to settle for king f7, then I'm sorry, for king f7, then you might have a win here too, though I kind of doubt it. We saw king f7 here,
Yeah.
and now king f5.
Well, no,
No,
I
sorry,
think I
h6,
played h6. Yeah.
h6 right
Yeah. Because I
away.
was going to outflank him from the side.
Oh, but h6 right
Oh,
away,
he gets
g8.
opposition. Yeah, he gets opposition. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to play this first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now king e7, king g6,
Yeah.
king f8. This was all pretty forced.
Yeah.
And now black has an extra resource that we didn't mention. It's tricky. It's very tricky.
I guess he can just play king g8.
King g8.
Yeah.
Very tricky idea. You can take because it's just draw. And if you go back to h5, he's going to take, or g5, he takes, and after king takes... Oh, no, sorry, that's actually a win for you, because if the king gets to h7, it's just an easy win. But where do we go from here? Now White has only one move that wins, I think.
Like I'm looking at king g5.
King g5.
Yeah, because we won't get opposition, but I think we might be able to outflank.
King g5. But if king h7...
For some reason, I thought we could squeeze in there, but maybe not. But I wonder. We still. I mean, it might not be a clear win, but we might still be okay there because we might be able to queen at the same time. If can you go back? It's no. I mean, from here, no, forward.
h6.
Yeah, and then king g8, and what did I say? Yeah, king g5, and then you play
king g5.
Yeah, king g5, and then yeah. So here I'm thinking. Do you think we still might? Let's see. I'm wondering if we can go for the e6 pawn here, and then try to hide. I think I'm wondering if we're fast enough. Let's see. Oh, I guess the problem is he doesn't have to take the pawn. He can. No, but still. Hang on. So king f5. Yeah, so he'll have to take. So gh, and then king e6, h5, king d6, h4, king takes c5, h3. Yeah, I think we're okay there. No, yeah.
We promote at the same, yeah.
But then we have way more pawns.
Yeah, you have this extra pawn and another one that is double there.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's as clear as it was previously, but yeah. h4, king, but probably this one. Otherwise, this could be foreign and it could be a bit messy.
Yeah, I was just thinking we might be able to kind of create shelter if we took on c5, because after he checks, like we could hide on c6.
Like this and h2. Yeah, but he takes this pawn after promoting. That's what scares me here.
But okay, but it looks like we might be able to maybe force a trade of queens. Maybe, I don't know. I'm hoping.
Takes. Yeah. It's hard because you need to, if you're going to trade queens, it's probably on c6, but then after the trade, e4 can play fast.
And then,
it's still,
you do it again, then you get the two queens again.
It's still hard.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe you take on e5, and it still looks better for white. Yeah, actually, this looks quite good for white. It might not be an easy win, but it should be a win, I guess. I mean, you have this extra pawn, you have cover for your king thanks to the double pawn. So yeah, this should be a win. So yeah, h5. I'm sorry, h5. Um, yeah, with the idea of playing g5 looks good. King here, 5 we saw. This technique is called widening the beachhead. Want to eliminate all the pawns on the king side and get the opposition to get to the pawn on these seats. With all the pawns taking up many squares on the king side, that's impossible. So you need to trade all these pawns and get your king in a favorable position.
Yeah,
h5.
could you just again explain the definition of what was it? Widening the beachhead.
Yeah, it's about liquidating the pawns on a side of the board. When you have a more active king, I mean, you need more room for your king, which is well, much more active than black's king, and you'll really need to have some room to go to f6, for example. So all the pawns on the king side are sort of in the way for that intention. So you really like to liquidate all these pawns. You want them to disappear off the board and get the opposition at the same time, of course. Uh, in many variations, you're just going to get the opposition and you're going to outflank him because, well, your king is just better placed. So if you really get to trade all the pawns, there's a good chance you get the opposition there. And well, you need room for the king. That's the main issue here. And yeah, h5 looks good enough for that purpose. I mean, king g8 is the only move apparently, and now g5. It doesn't seem as we're missing any resources here. H takes is the only move, I guess. King takes. And yeah, the idea is to play h6 and just liquidate the remaining pawn so that you can get through f6, which is your main concern here. King h. Well, we saw king h7, king f5. You also have that advantage that your king being so much stronger, you can get to the pawns and you even queen first. So we after king takes, we saw king f7, and now h6. If well, h6, g takes wasn't a good idea because he gets the opposition. So you can go f5 first, and you usually want to push the king back to the first rank because then h6 and you still get the opposition, and it's fairly simple from here on. But that technique is very usual in endgames. Also, g5 wins in the initial position. Actually, I had g5 as the right move here, even though as far as we saw, h5 looks like it's completely winning. At the very least, I can see a difference because it leads to the same variations, actually. After h takes, well, here it's important to take with the king. If you take with the pawn, your king goes nowhere after this. You just get caged there. If you play g6, king e7, you have no way to pass. So you take with the king, and then h5, h6 is going to be inevitable. King f7, h5, and it's very similar to the game. King e7, king g6, king f8, and now we have the same position. But after king g7, there's a little fine detail. We saw that king g5 and king f5 going for the pawns, going after those pawns on the center always gives you a better queen endgame. But here king h5 is better. It's It's easier, I guess.
It's simpler, yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think I think there might be multiple. Okay, well, hang on. Pretty quick there. There might be multiple ways to win because I'm. This probably isn't the best move, but I'm thinking H7 might possibly even win. Again, trying to go for that, like letting him queen.
Yeah, you can go for the pawn.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there might be a even a cleaner way.
This is easy because you get the opposition, no matter what he does. I mean, you're threatening to play h takes g7 and then king g5, and you win the opposition, and well, you take all his pawns. So it's really easy now. After g takes, king takes, the problem is that this square g6 is just critical.
Yeah, I was actually thinking there to go king g6.
When here? No.
Yeah, here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but he has h5. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And he forces you to. Yeah, he forces you to capture, and then he gets the opposition. That's the main problem.
There, can we still go after the e6 pawn? I don't know. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, it looks like you're just too far.
1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
6. Oh yeah, 6 moves.
Yeah, you're too far away.
King
f6, h4, king f6, h3, king takes.
Oh, 7.
Yeah, you're taking on this.
Okay. Yes, we're 3 moves behind. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
He sits and he plays h2. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, h5 now makes a draw thanks to the opposition. But with king takes, it doesn't matter if he takes the opposition anymore because you get to g6. And once you get to g6, he can't take the opposition here on e6, and it's over. So yeah, retreating with king h5 is by far the easiest.
I'm just looking at king f8 though.
King f8, h7, I guess. And
h7.
You can go back to g8.
Yeah, but king f7.
And then we just. Oh, king f7 here right now?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm sorry. It's here.
Yeah. So
and now king f8.
I'm trying to think the line that we were just saying. No, here if we take here king f8.
Yeah, now it doesn't matter that white doesn't get the opposition because black can take the opposition back on e6. And you're going after this pawn, so you're already outflanking the black king. If king is 7, just king g7, and the black king is going to be pushed back.
Okay.
Well,
no. I see. Here I thought I had to play king g8. That's why. Okay, so we go king f6.
Okay. Yeah. Now we have the opportunity of getting to e6. That's white's goal. When he gets to g6, then it's impossible for black to keep the opposition because if he doesn't get a meaningful opposition, he can get the diagonal one, but white is already heading for the square he wants. So there's no way of stopping him. And then the pawns are going to fall. This technique is very usual when you have a more active king. This is maybe a bit more complex example. Here it's black to play, and it's a game binding, so it's as black. What is white threatening to start with?
Well, it looks like white would be kind of in a zugzwang if we play, well, not quite, but yeah, if we play c5, and if white doesn't recapture, simply, I don't know, f4 looks pretty good, because then we can get a king into the h file, or the a file rather. So, I mean, yeah, the most immediate obvious move here is f5, or c5, sorry.
C5. Well, c5 actually loses. Yeah, the game is lost after c5. White has a very nasty positional threat here.
After c5, you mean?
Yeah.
C3 is interesting.
Yeah, that's the issue there. White is also threatening something in the starting position. He wants to play c3 and get an outside passed pawn. In this
You cut out.
endgames,
Sorry, you cut out there for a minute. Hello?
with pawns on both sides, because your king is distracted this pawn while the white king just wreaks havoc. So if it were takes, then the a pawn is going to win this pretty much all by itself. When you go capture that pawn with this king, then the white king is going to take care of all your pawns. And that's the big problem here for black. If you go c5, well, there's a clear win here for white. c3 is actually a mistake that it likely loses the game. Yeah, it loses the game for white.
Well, c4 looks like the only other move.
Yeah, c3, c4, and now we have a protected passed pawn after the pawn trade on c3, and that's huge in king and pawn's endgame. After king d2, we take, and then this pawn is defended by the pawn on d5, and these pawns can take care of themselves.
And my
and
king,
that frees your king.
exactly, yeah. King is free to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and we can say the same of the white king. Still widening the beachhead is still a theme here, because you still have to do something meaningful with your king. For example, if white just stays.
I think we can probably triangulate in there, though.
What? I'm sorry?
I said I don't think we should have any problems, because I think we should be able to triangulate where we want to go.
Yeah, probably. Still, you always have to be sort of careful. For example, how do you win here?
So I'm looking at king b4, king b4, king. Well, he might actually go king b1, but then that. Well, yeah, it's. I see what you're saying. But king b4, king b1. I don't think that's good, because I think. Hang on, king b4. Assuming king b1 is the best move, I'm looking at king king a3, king a1. That doesn't really seem to make any progress. No, maybe it does. No, it doesn't. I don't think that makes progress for us. Because if we go back to king b4, king b2, yeah. So okay, so if we go then king c3, king c3, and I think we're good there. Because if a4, then we go to king b4.
Yeah, we have that resource.
Yeah.
So king b4, he can't let you into c3 because king b1, king c3, and well, you're losing this. You can even take this pawn, and you're back in time to catch the a pawn
Oh
in any
wow.
case. He has to play here, and now what?
Okay, it's interesting. I'm looking at king a5. So king a5, king c3, and king a4, king b2. And then I had the weird idea of c3, but he's probably going to be able to get there. Okay, c3, we take on a2, king b4. Yeah, no, yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Okay.
It's still tough. This pawn always has a lot of potential to to annoy you here. This is another technique. I mean, you would really love to give this pawn for the a2 pawn and win the opposition and take the d4 pawn next. But it's hard to do so here.
But
For
I'm
example,
wondering.
c3.
I was just going to say, yeah, c3, and then we can snatch that. Well, it's the same problem as before. Well, the problem is it's an outside pass pawn. So even if c3 and we take, even yeah, it's an outside pass pawn. So even if c3 and then we take the d pawn, if he starts pushing that other pawn, we're going to. No, but we're closer, right? We can queen though. So I don't know, c3. Um,
King c2,
yeah,
king
no,
c4 on the
yes,
move.
yeah. A4, you think?
A4 might be the only move because if we want to be too clever and play a3, maybe king takes, and a4, king c4, and
Yeah, the
a5.
pawns will defend themselves.
Oh, it still could work. c4, c3. It's hard because after a4, what would you play here as black? Now you're actually winning this.
I don't know. Multiple moves seem good. I'm looking at king b4 right now. If he plays a5, takes.
Yeah, exactly. And your king is going to be more active when these pawns disappear. That's key. You're kind of forcing him into widening the beachhead himself for your king to remain the most active. Yeah, a5, king takes, and king takes, king a4, and he's going to lose his pawn. King d3, king b4, king 3, king c4. And it wouldn't mean that much if these pawns went off the board, but that's the thing with endgames with pawns on both sides of the board. Uh, there's no draw here. You take on d4 and then you go for the g pawn. Again, it seems like you're winning. I wonder about this though, a3, so that you don't have king b4.
Yeah, I was thinking of if d3 or a3. I was thinking of taking on d4.
Seems like the only move. Otherwise, he's going to win this pawn. And
Yeah, and then if
this is pretty much false.
yeah, I thought there should be no problem. I thought we just go king c4.
King c4, but
Yeah.
then a5.
Do we have time to play d4?
a6, d3, king somewhere, king c1.
Yeah, then king b3.
King b3
Might not
looks
be.
like a likely draw. It looks like a draw. Yeah, you don't get to checkmate the white, but you're going to promote at the same time. Of course, if c2, we play here because on d2. Otherwise, king c3 is a win. Oh, sorry, this is too strong.
No, but I was thinking of.
You don't get to play here.
I was thinking of king b3 instead of c2.
Yeah, most likely this is a move, and a7.
Yeah.
And now d2 check. You are in time to promote, but we're going to promote at the same time.
Yeah.
c2, king takes, king b2, I promote, you promote, and it's a draw, most likely. Yeah. So White has his resources here because his pass pawn is always something to be taken into account. This is another technique here. You have this pass pawn, you want to use it well. I mean, if you're going to give it up, you really want to win the opposition and take the pawn on d4. That's what widening the beachhead is about. But now you have to push the white king the farthest you can. That's usually important. For example, king a4 here. He can't keep the opposition on a2. And if he plays a3, now you know that you can play c3 check. And after king takes a3, and you win the opposition again. And then you're going to eat that pawn. So king c2 is pretty much false here. And now king a3. King b1. And well, this is the best you can get as far as improving the position of your king goes. Now what do you do? It's still not easy. But now I think you have a way of.
Yeah, well, I was looking at b3 and c3, king c1, king a2.
Actually, king c1, king takes a2, king c2, and he has to take this, but
yeah, okay, yeah, king c3 then. Yeah, so king c2.
You already broke.
King a2, king c3, and so if king a1, king b2, king c2, I'm not making progress there. So it's white to move though. So yeah, so king c1.
King takes a2.
Yeah, king c2.
In this case, we are always winning because you can't keep the opposition as white because of these squares are taken. King c2, king a3. And even if he takes here, after king a4, you can do nothing to prevent the black king from getting you to your pawn. You really need to play king c4 here, but c4 is taken already, so king b4 is coming next.
So king c2.
That's the problem for white. The black, we just go after that pawn. And we're getting to c4. King d3, and suddenly we can just, if we get to c4, we know that he's not holding nets. We will play to c3. For example, he wanted to keep the opposition for a bit longer. That's all that he's going to get. And then the pawn falls. Quite hard. I mean, I now I'm not even convinced this is winning, because after king b1, c3, he still has this resource. King a1. And now, and now what?
Yeah, but aren't we faster if we go king b4?
King b4,
Yeah.
we have to go back to b1.
And then king c4.
King c4, yeah. Well, on a4, we saw that king b4 is always strong, but king c2 is still problematic for us.
This looks like the other position we looked at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same position. Well, that ended up being a draw. This is the position that ended up being a draw.
Yeah, it was white to play. Here it's black to play, but still we can't take on d4 because of a4. And
no, we have to. We got to be good there. We got to be good there, right? King d4,
okay.
a4, king c4.
King c4.
Oh, we never get. Well, okay.
Yeah, now it's the same position.
Is it the same before? Yeah. And we can't outflank, right? We can't let him take the d pawn and then. Okay, it's too bad, right? We want that one move to connect the pawns together, but.
Yeah, we are one tempo away from the victory here. Yeah, it's amazing, but sometimes it's just. I know this looks like. It doesn't look like it's great. It's just great for black, and it's still hard to find a breakthrough. And maybe here there isn't one. This resource, especially this resource of a stalemate with king a1, it's amazing. Now you can go c2, and that's a problem. I wonder if there is a win here. Just let me see. Apparently. Queen B, King B. Oh, the computer finds a win. Oh, you.
Do we have time to go to king e2? Is that the idea?
Apparently not. But
we're having some connection issues. Ooh, hang on here.
3 check.
Alessandro? Okay, I'll wait for him. I don't think he can hear me.
And you don't need to.
Hello?
To go to e2 because.
Okay.
Because you're forcing here. If he had this card. Now I read that we have connection issues.
Yep. Hello?
Yeah, now I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, you were breaking up that whole time. It almost seems to happen when you move the pieces sometimes. I'm not. You don't have any other. Yeah, you don't have any other.
Window open.
Yeah, yeah. Because it seems fine now, but
no.
Okay.
Just Lichess.
Okay. Okay, it's good now, anyways.
So, well, here there was a breakthrough, apparently. It was hard to calculate. You had to see this king e3 and that you were promoting first, thanks to the fact that you were getting this check and he has to take. But yeah, as you see, sometimes even with the passed undefended pawn, it's not that easy. Apparently, you're winning here after c5 if he plays c3. But now it's white to play and win in this position if you go c5. There's a crucial difference here. White can make with one single instead of c3.
Yeah, I was looking at c4, but it's so unclear.
Yeah. White would really as you saw, lateral pass pawn can be huge here. Problem is that c3 also gives black a very powerful pass pawn, but how can you avoid that?
Well, you could take it.
Exactly. Did take c first,
and then
so he
and then
doesn't
c
get the.
and then c3.
Yeah, and black is completely lost.
The outside, yeah,
There's no saving.
yeah. Now you get a clear outside pass pawn.
Yeah, and this is, yeah, the black king is going to get distracted taking that a pawn, and the white king is just going to have party here. So yeah, c5 was sloppy because of that. uh, so in fact, in the initial position, c3 is a big threat because white is just going to play it anyway. But Nisoit found a great move here and a great idea.
Okay, well we can't push. I mean, we can't push either pawn. Pushing the b pawn seems to make no sense to me. So we have to make a king move. And then the only move that really makes sense to me would be king c7.
Exactly. We absolutely need to activate the king. Yeah. Yeah. King c7 is the move. And well, c3 is necessary. Otherwise, uh, you're just going to activate the king, and the white pawns are going to be in danger. So c3 is necessary. And now
I was just looking at the weird idea of c5, but I don't think that works because then white gets the outside pass pawn again. If we go c5, um, like I was looking at c5 dc, and then bc, and then king takes. But yeah, again, white has that outside pass pawn. So instead, we could either take on c3, but then again, I mean, we have the connected pawns there, but we have a backwards pawn, and white still has that outside pass pawn. Um, if we go king b6, and if white takes, um, if we go king b6 and cb, and then king b5, it's not looking good. King c3. Oh, king c3 it's interesting. King c3 and then king a4, and that's interesting.
he has to give back
Yeah,
a pawn.
yeah.
Yeah, and your king ends up being more active. Actually, that's how the game went. And after king a4, Hansen, Ninsoy's opponent, just resigned. Uh, it might seem like a premature decision, but it was fully justified. I mean, after king b6. Well, c takes is an idea. c4 is another idea. To try to keep the king away, but we're going to see that one after we see how the game ended. After king a4, well, he resigns. It might seem like too much, but he's going to lose 2 pawns and probably a third one. Because, for example, if you want to stay around here and say, okay, I'm going to protect my passed pawn. The problem is that the black king can always take on d4 and just go back. The a pawn is just not in time. After king takes, we are on the square of the pawn. a5, king c5, no problem there. So not enough. Well, there's actually no other way. If king d3, king a3, White is in no time to do this because he has to go after this pawn and it just takes up too much time. And after king c3, you're going to take on d4, and it's always a win. So it was a good time to resign. White could have tried to put up some resistance here with c4, trying to keep the black king away, but now is when we have, well, have to see that White obviously wants to trade here.
My instinct is to play king a5.
King a5 is fine. After c takes, now your job as black, as you have the more active king here, is to widen the beachhead. Now you really need to exchange these pawns. Notice that if we take these pawns away from board, then it's just an automatic win, regardless of who is to play here. Because if it were White to play king c3, king a4, and we know that he can't keep the opposition with king c4, so you're just going to eat that pawn on d4. So your job now is to get rid of his pawns. Our usual technique. What does White do here then?
I guess king c2.
King c2, exactly. Now is where the theory of corresponding squares that I think we talked about in one lesson comes in handy. When black plays king b5, what should you play as white?
What if you... I wonder if you can go back to... Okay, let's see. No, we can't do that. Yeah, hang on. Looks like king b2.
King b2. Well, but if you go king b5, king b2,
then... Yeah, sorry. So king b3.
Yeah, these squares are corresponding. When black plays king b5, you need to play king b3. And when white plays king b3, of course, black would love to play king b5 and tell white, well, your move, get the king out of there, and I play king c4. So this is one set of corresponding squares. And it's not actually easy to break that, because if you play king a4, then king b2, and he's still touching his corresponding square. And if you go back to a5, he has to keep this position, playing king c2. Notice that you can't keep the black king away from c4 this way, because if he gets to a3, then he's going to widen the beachhead. After king c2, king a3, this is just winning for black, because you get to trade the pawns. So here, king a5, king c2. So we see that there are some sets of corresponding squares now. b5, b3, and c2 and a5 are also squares of Well, they are corresponding squares in the sense that when black plays king a5, white really needs to play king c2 to stay in touch with b3. Um, so now there is one way to win this. It's rather subtle, but it's completely possible to find. What would you play here now?
Well, there's king a4. Let's see, king a4. If king b2. I'm wondering if we can go. We if we go to king. Sorry, if we let's see, king a4, king b2, and I'm looking at b3, and then ab, and then king b4, king b2, and king c4, and let's say king a3 take, and it's interesting.
But how? King a4
Yeah,
here, king b2,
yeah. We give the pawn.
and now b3.
Yeah.
Okay, there are a couple of problems with that. If we take king here
Mm-hmm.
and king c2,
I was assuming king a2 for some reason.
oh, okay,
Uh,
okay,
yeah. Okay. So never mind. Okay. I
yeah,
don't know why I didn't
there's
consider king
another.
c2.
Yeah, a3 might be even stronger because you lose this pawn and then the outside pass
Okay.
pawn.
Yeah. Never mind.
Um, yeah, actually, here white gets to step on the corresponding square at the right time. If king b5, king b3,
Mm-hmm.
and if king a5, he just keeps the position with
Yeah.
king c2. Here's the key. White always has to be on the lookout that you're going to go through c4 and, well, completely win. So,
Uh,
uh,
king a6.
yeah, black has, yeah, king a6. Now you get to triangulate because you can give up this time and you're still going to be in touch with these two squares. So you're going to step on the corresponding square only when you can put white in sux1 to when you can pass the turn to him. So now he can go to b3 because of king b5 and you go through c4. He can never do the same. He can't just wait here, for example, because now king b5, king d2, king b5, he needs to prevent king c4, so he goes to d3, and then you go to a4, and we win widening the beachhead again with king a3 and b3. So after king a6, um, well, we said that he can't step on b3 because of king b5. He can't wait here because of king b5, but he can still try to be tricky and play like this. And now he's still waiting for you to step on a corresponding square
Yeah.
to go to the corresponding square, a5, c4, c2.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to step into
Yeah.
any of these
Yeah.
two.
So if we go king b6.
Yeah, we triangulate. Uh, he can't do the same. He doesn't have the square. So king b3, king b5. And, well, he has to be able to take the square. Otherwise, he's just lost. If he goes back, you just
Mm-hmm.
run towards c4. So king c2, and now
King c6.
king c6 and king b2, I guess.
Hmm.
Now you have to remember what was the corresponding square of c2.
A5.
Yeah. So we put him in Suksun this
I
time.
see. It's
Instead,
yeah. It's the
it's
same.
hard. After some calculation, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It makes sense. So the whole point of triangulate is to get in the same position, but the other person to move. So now we're in the same position as before, but now it's white to move.
Yeah, it's easier when we see what the corresponding squares are. The squares of mutual Suksun. We know that when he plays king c2, we absolutely need to play king a5 and put him in Suksun. And yeah, now he can't prevent your king coming to a3, which was the whole point. Because if king b3, now we go king b5 and we go through c4. And if king b2, now he has to give way to our king. And we're finally getting to a3, which was the whole point of this. And you win by widening the beachhead. b3, we liquidate the pawns, and the most active king, as usual, ends up winning the game. um, and yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, this is a really hard one because there are many themes that have to be well understood here to win this endgame. For example, the thing with the corresponding squares, triangulation, and well, this maneuver was great. He just gave up the pawn, but the activation of the king was what won the game for him in the end. Um, I wanted to go to your game because it was so interesting. I mean, the part of the pawn endgame. Uh, Actually, what remember that I wrote my analysis to you. It had a big flaw, which goes to show how important is calculation in this situation. This is an important moment in this endgame. Thinking about the ideas of getting past lateral pass pawns, what do you think you can play here as white?
Well, I mean, we have one passed pawn already. So you wanting another one? Is that it? Or are you wanting one on the other side? Or are you just wanting a good move?
Yeah, as you saw in many of the examples, even when we get a favorable structure and protected past pawn, sometimes the board is so crowded with pawns that it's not easy to pass with our king, which is kind of what happened to you in this game in the end. It was hard to find a way through for
Um,
your king.
F4 is interesting because we do have that passed pawn on D4, meaning for the rest of the game, Black's king can't really stray outside of the square of that E4 pawn. So F4, and if he takes, we have all the time in the world, I think, to gobble up all those pawns with our king. And if G4, that's the only thing I'm not 100% certain of. But um, I'm wondering if we could even just play F5 then. If we go F4, G4, F5, and I don't think Black's king is going to be able to do anything about that rogue F5 pawn because then we just march the E pawn.
Yeah, these pawns would be in danger, definitely. What worries me about f4 here is that he might activate his king with the idea of making you take on g5, in which case he would be probably
No,
fine.
but here, no, but
uh,
here I was thinking of F5.
f5 right now.
Yeah,
Um, king, yeah, and this is the problem I see with this. I'm not entirely sure it's a problem.
yeah, King F2.
f2. Uh-huh. So yeah, you're in time to play king e3. Okay, if you're in time to play king e3, yeah, because I was thinking about this, but but there doesn't seem to be a problem there. King d5, king e3, a5.
Well, actually, my plan was actually to go to c3 and then f3, g4, a5.
3, g4, h5.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's going to take up some time. Well, I guess I have to play king d5 anyway.
Yeah. King f3.
And king f3. I'm wondering if b4 right away works.
Oh, that's annoying, man.
Yeah. Yeah, because the
Yeah,
black
because
king ends up being more active. Yeah.
yeah.
The other way is king e3 with the idea of just pushing black king back. I'm sorry, with c4 check. Still not entirely sure this is going to work, but for example, let's say a5, you go here just to make some moves. c4 check, takes, and
Yeah, we have to be better here.
yeah, I guess maybe this a5 was just too loose. Probably we have to, we can't just advance that pawn so much, maybe. Still, we need to find a way to break through. Ideally, I would play a5 only once white has already played a4 so that his king can go this way, can go around. c4, pawn takes, king just he sits most likely. With the idea of d5 check to play just king c5. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's hard. White always has the advantage because if you manage to pass with your king, then you're going to push your pawn, which is going to be protected. And this is a crippled majority, definitely. But I'm not sure how you're going to force black into that here.
Crippled majority. That would be a good Lichess username.
Yeah.
Crippled majority.
Funny nickname.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard actually to make progress here. Sometimes we just can't get through, even though this pawn looks very strong.
Okay, yeah, I guess it'll take too long. It'll take too long to go this route because his king can gobble up our pawns quicker. I guess. Because take, and then it's going to come in here, like that. It might be close.
Yeah, now maybe now it works because if you play b5, c takes b, and even if king d5, he can never take here because b6 is just too quick. Yeah, maybe you can go around now. Just keep your pawns as they are now and go around. It could work now. Yeah, it's hard to defend also. Yeah, quite possibly this works. Yeah, b5 is always bad. You can take and play a5, and you have an outside pass pawn again. And yeah, f4 is an interesting line. It's a way of fighting against this, and if you can fit those pawns, then that's great.
I played
Yeah,
king.
f4. Yeah,
I played king f1. What's it instead of
you
f4?
play king f1. There's a really nice way of forcing the issue here because uh, you put him in a very tough spot after h3. Seems like an innocent move, but the idea is playing g3 without him being able to play h3 himself. And if you get that, he has two options. After h3, either he takes and gives you another pass pawn, which would be just too much to handle for black after h4, or else you just take on h4, and now you have a clear route for your king to do his pawn. So he has no good way of facing this actually. If pawn takes, then h4 is coming and lateral pass pawn. And if he doesn't, and let's say he just keeps pushing here, pawn takes, pawn takes.
Uh,
Well, most likely you play c4, I guess.
oh
um,
yeah, and so his king can't defend both the d pawn and the h pawn.
yeah, and that's a good thing. You already have a way through for your king after this exchange, and you manage to make an exchange that keeps his structure being horrible. Now he
Yeah.
has no possible breakthroughs on the king side, and you have a way through for your own king. So this is probably much easier than keeping more pawns. You kind of widened the beachhead for the white king here, while you kept his pawns as a crippled majority. So yeah, this was the first moment of the game where probably you had a good, clear way of just making inroads for your king on the king side, but it wasn't the only one. King f1, a5, king e2, king e7, a4, good move.
Well, really, I wasn't sure about it, but I did. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I wasn't sure of a4 when I played it.
I like that you're also going to keep this pawn backward and restrict it, so uh, it looks good. You're actually defining the structure, and this is clearly going to happen anyway. So yeah, you're now getting the opportunity to play d5 at a suitable moment, but you still need a way through for your king, and that's not as easy maybe. Play the uh, it was like this. Yeah, king d6. Well, h3 is most likely still a very good idea. um, h3 with the idea of g3 still gives you a way in for your king. So c4, f5, king e3, and b6. Well, now it's I told you about the plan that I came up with when I first saw
Yeah,
this, and it has a huge hole, a huge tactical hole in it, I must confess.
I think you were
Um,
thinking of king f3, and
I was thinking about king f3 as you played in the game. You repeated some moves. I was thinking about this position. And here I came up with g4, which is actually blunder. You're just making a draw here, which I didn't notice. And it goes to show how hard these endgames can be, even when you have the advantage. And you always have to be on the lookout for tactical resources. Uh, I only examined this, and yeah, I was saying at the time that if h takes, how do you take on g3 now?
king you said king takes.
Yeah, excellent. Because if you take with a pawn, you have no way of going through. And anytime you play g4, he also gets a passed unprotected pawn, so it's a draw. The black king always has to be defending against this one, and you are just tied to the f4 pawn. So no way of winning this. It's just going to be a repetition. But after king takes, you can widen the beachhead, as we talked about now, because you can liquidate these pawns. And he always has to be tied to this pawn that could advance. So I don't know, king here, and he has the ugly option of allowing two distant passed pawns, or else just giving your king an entry. But actually, I missed something important here. Something very big.
I'm wondering if he could actually play B5. No, so hang on. No, never mind.
At that moment, I think the analysis I told you that h3 was simply losing to the idea of getting the king to e5. And as it turns out, I was grossly underestimating black's resources here, because these three against these two now are not crippled at all. I mean, there are many breakthroughs, and I completely ignored this. I didn't realize.
Oh,
because I analyzed only this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you? I'm just looking. Yeah. So if I'm looking at C5, sorry, I'm looking at F because we were black before. So I'm looking at F4, and if GF, and then I'm looking at G. I'm wondering if G4 works.
Well, that idea is hanging there. Now king f2 actually stops a pawn, so it's still not possible, but it's going to be. And that's a big problem about this. If you play it right now, well, white takes, and then after g4 he goes king f2 and he gets to g3. But that idea is there. So after king e6, for example, as I gave in the analysis, then d5 check, king e5, and I commented that king d3 was just winning, which is just plain wrong. After king d6, king d4, I was saying that king e5 is coming next. And now your idea does work. f4 is strong. And it's just a draw. How do we keep the draw here? In fact, white is the one who has to be careful now.
I get king e4. But I'm just looking at if king e4, b5.
Well, king e4, this pawn is fast. We take.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in case of this, the h3 pawn denies us access to g2, so we are lost. And if we take...
Yeah, same thing. Just push g4.
Yeah, and black is winning thanks to g3 and g takes. But this is draw. After f4, we have to play g4, and he has his own pass protected pawn. So yeah, that was a very nice, a nice resource. And here actually we can't make progress. So it's not that easy as it turns out.
Yeah, I think instead of king f3, the computer really liked f3.
Yeah, this is very important. I really like the way the computer showed to win this. You need, at some point you need to pass with your king. I mean, play d5, king d4, and go through e5, or play c5 and then win. And it's an elegant win, actually. It's very elegant. Uh, King d3 is fine. I still think it's fine. Well, f3 is the cleanest way, I believe. Well, black can only stand still, of course.
Then d5.
And
Oh,
yeah, or h3. This is usually the way to contain this 4 against this 3. Now, even if he plays g4, he can never get the path pawn as long as you stand still. And if he keeps his king around here, then king d3, g4. A nasty idea, because if we take everything, then f3 and the h pawn is just going to promote. And d5 check. King d6, for example, or king e5. Still,
yeah, he's going to run out of
painting us
squares,
from
so we just go just king c3.
king c3. Yeah.
And then he'll be in zugzwang. We just play king d4 eventually.
Yeah, if king d6, king d4, so he can't do it like that. I mean, after e6 check, then he might want to wait until we step on d4, so he plays king d6. And this is tougher to beat now. Now is when another idea comes into mind, that of the reserved tempi. If we go directly for this, we see that we have no way of giving the move to black. And this would usually be a resource. c5 check, b takes c, king c4, and it's black's turn. But he's the one with the reserved tempi. And after g3, it's white to play, and he loses the pawn and he loses the game, quite amazingly. So we need to get this position, but with black to play. We can go through d4 easily because of king d6, as we saw. So now there's a beautiful idea. We want to force black to surrender his reserved tempi here that he had with g3. We want him to we want to make him push g3 or otherwise take on h3 or f3. How do we do that?
Yeah, we take on g4.
We take on g4, but if he takes,
yeah, we take back.
This is a sound breakthrough for him.
That's dirty. That's dirty.
Fast.
I thought our king could stop that, but no. Okay.
Amazingly, he can't. There's still this to calculate.
Oh, right.
But there's a beautiful finish here. White is losing this, amazingly.
F3.
F3 is excellent. G takes, and now you take, and he doesn't have access to F3. He'll need to play king F3 to stop that pawn, but he can go there, and if F4, H2, he's just not in time. Yeah, that F3 is completely winning now. So yeah, you don't get away with taking that pawn. You can still try this. I mean, after king here, takes, you can go king e2, but after f3 check, pawn takes, he has g3.
Then draw.
And yeah, even though you have the extra pawn, he can't control these 2 pawns. They are only one file apart, and your king, of course, absolutely has to take care of this one. So black has many resources. He's very slippery. King d7. So now you really want to threaten taken. So you should play king e2, and now you're really threatening to take here because no f3 on the horizon. I'm sorry. So he has to define his structure now. Otherwise, you're just going to take on g4, play king f3, take here, and it's easy. So now he has to move the pawn forward, or else just take on h3, probably on h3, not f3 because of king takes. And now you do make it to d4, and even though you don't win the opposition, now you do have this idea of c5, pawn takes, and king c4, and without the pawn on g4, he doesn't have the reserve tempo. Now it's his turn and he's losing. This was the reasoning, so to speak, behind the line of the computer, which was hard, really, really hard. And as you saw, I had this idea to break through, widening the beachhead, just liquidating all the pawns on the king side, and it didn't work because of some tactical details.
Yeah, it's still fairly complex, and I also only had 3 minutes at the end, but it was
it's impossible.
Other than a blunder I made earlier in the game, it was actually a pretty enjoyable game. I enjoyed playing that game.
And this game was very rich, and it was complex because you see this position and you think, hey, I'm easily winning here. With so many pawns on the board, it's not so easy.
And two
2
sets of double pawns from my opponent, and I have no double pawns.
Yeah, it seems like it should be easily winning, but with so many pawns over the board, even though you get a passed pawn, a passed unprotected pawn, you still need a way to put your king into play. And there are so many obstacles that and it's not so easy. This idea of h3 and g3 clarified things because it gave you a way through for your king on the king side, but it's not easy at all to spot. I mean, it's not the first thing we think about, especially in a rapid game. I'm completely sure I would play something like king f1 as you did, or f4. That is another interesting idea.
Yeah, partly why I didn't even consider h3 and why I played king f1 here is because I am very aware and cognizant of reserve tempi. So I wanted to make as many king moves, basically. I wanted to activate the king without pushing my pawns, because I thought in such a position it might be handy to have reserve tempi. That was my logic.
Actually, it turned out you needed a way in for your king, and the attractive thing about h3 and g3 is that you get a way in while you keep these 2 pawns double. So the majority is still crippled, and you have easy access to the pawns, which is what's hard to get here. The technique of widening the beachhead when you have passed pawn to support here, like here, or else there are some pawns that you can take with your more active king, like in the situations we saw. It's just typical in situations with many pawns because we usually need a way in for our king, and there are many pawns in the way. So that's, I think, the most universal technique when there are many pawns in the way. Has to be taken into account.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe in another lesson we see some other patterns that have to do with breakthroughs and some typical stuff that happens with reserve tempi also. But you're aware of that one, I see.
Yeah, actually, that's my other Lichess username is reserve tempi. Actually.
Oh.
Yeah. I haven't. And also, actually, AJ has been watching this as well. So he just said endgame lesson was helpful for me. So you got a free lesson in there, right? he snuck in. Oops. Yeah. Well, thank you for that very much.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to keep, and I'm still going to send you some of the difficult and interesting puzzles that I come across when I do
Yeah, I really
woodpecker.
like that.
Yeah,
I knew some of
yeah,
them actually.
that's cheating. You already knew them. You knew two of them.
It's a way of cheating.
Yeah. But I am on the tall section, and there's more to come, and hopefully some of them you haven't seen before. But that bishop c1, it's funny because I'm on my third cycle of this section, and I've already done the puzzle twice before, but I still always forget bishop c1 because it's
Yeah, it's overlooking. It's completely.
yes, yeah.
It's a move that when you see it made and you calculate a couple of moves further, it's clear that it works, but it's hard to spot the
Yes.
first place.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like once you see it, the second you see it, Bishop, you say, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." But
yeah,
to come up with that plan before, like a few moves before, that's the hard part, right?
yeah. Seeing is the hard part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, thank you again. I know it's late there. I will see you next week then.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. See
thank
you
you.
on Tuesday.
Bye.